Good evening. Welcome. Hello. It is 7 o'clock on the dot. We are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Nisha Jones. I am president, founder, and CEO of Pay It Forward Networking Group. We are a nonprofit organization based out of Wilmington, Delaware. Our whole end game is to create spaces, to create events, and to provide resources that impact women of color. We want to love on each other, support one another, and fellowship amongst each other. So today is just another example of all the great things that we're going to continue to do to make an impact in our community. And of course, as a nonprofit organization, we're official 501c3, which means we need your help or assistance. Please make sure you visit www.pifngroup.com. No donation is too big or too small. We love y'all, but without further ado, today we have an awesome program planned for you. And I don't even want to say a program because I would just say a conversation.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
here with my sisters. So it's September, and we know it is back to school time. Education is something that impacts everyone, no matter where you're from, how old you are, no matter what. Education is something we all can relate to. But today we are going to specifically speak to education and minorities. Before we get into the program, I am going to allow my team to introduce themselves and just take it from there. So, Kendra.
Hi, I'm Kendra Brown. For those who don't know, I am a board member of Pay It Forward Networking Group and a education activist. So, I introduce you to our tech, Nadia Lacey. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Nadia. So without Nadia, you would not be here. Thank you. We're also going to make sure we provide her contact information in because she does technology and photography. So if you are in Wilmington and looking for someone to service your needs, she's going to take wonderful care of you. And
well, without further ado, we introduce you to Senator Tizzy Lockman. Thank you.
Hey.
Okay, Tizzy's fine. Thank you.
I mean, we're going to call you Tizzy, but can we just gloat in the fact that we got the same for you? But we're going to call her Tizzy. You know,
Yes.
this is very informal today.
Fellowship moment.
This is fellowship moment, but we just got to brag a little bit. Yeah, we got, yeah.
No, I'm honored to be here with you guys. I'm really excited to have the conversation. Happy back to school, everyone. And I think the first thing we said when we saw each other downstairs is like, oh my gosh, it's September. We are tired. Our kids are doing this, doing that. We're doing all kinds of things related to school. So it's nice just to be able to sit back and come together and talk about it.
So, Ms. Lockman, can you tell us just a little bit that you have been doing receiving this education in the community or in the New York County?
Sure, I'll touch on it, and I know we'll get into all different aspects of it. But so, as was mentioned, I'm a state senator, so that's my job. I was given the privilege of being elected by the constituents of the 3rd district, so that's like the largest chunk of Wilmington that's represented in the state senate, and so it's pretty much anything you would consider the west side, most of the east side, downtown, riverfront area, which is the area that I grew up in Cool Spring neighborhood. And so I've been doing that for 5 years, almost 5 years now, which is crazy to say, because you knew me when I was an organizer before that, and working at Christina Cultural Arts Center, doing advocacy work around education. So, then my job was teaching myself and others in the community about how the education system works so that we could make sure that our kids are having a good experience in it. And now I work in state policy making, so I actually get to draft legislation and work on legislation to actually change that system. So that's something that we used to talk about all the time when we were doing advocacy, was like, how does the system not serve us? And I know we're going to get a lot more into different things like that. And so now I'm in a position where I can actually give proposals, represent what I hear in the community, and push to actually make those changes reality so that we can have a system that serves us.
Thank you. So I'm going to go into our next question. What is your role in this space of addressing disparities in the educational system?
Well, so I mean, that's at the heart of why we're here and why, I even got into all this, and I think why we're all interested in talking about it. It's that there are obvious disparities in education. So we've got a landscape of public schools. I think everyone feels like an expert on public schools because most of us have attended one or sent our children to one or know people in them or maybe teach in them. And I think we all know from that experience that not every school is created the same. Not every school has the same resources. So students coming from all kinds of different communities, coming with all kinds of different needs, need a lot of different kinds of resources. And if your school is not well resourced to meet high needs, for example, you're really going to struggle to have positive outcomes for kids. And we all want our children to go to school and be successful.
Yeah.
And if they go to a school where they, maybe have an educator that's not as experienced, or they don't have nice school books, or maybe the school is just dirty, those are the disparities I think that you see. And so my role, and I would say like far and away, not even the most central person on this, but my role is to figure out what can we do as a state, like how can we make sure that like the resources are flowing and that we have the right rules in place to make sure that on the ground in a school building, the right things are being done. And we can talk about that a little bit more in the sense that like, I don't get to control that. Schools are controlled locally, ideally in partnership with communities, but like school districts run schools. And so it's my job in a way to support school districts in providing the right resources to all the different kinds of students. So they're the experts, they're the ones who do the work. And then my job is to, to listen to all the different people involved and try to make sure that needs are getting better met than we have experienced so far. And that's the disparity.
Yeah, no, for sure. You can see it like, even in the neighborhoods, you go to certain neighborhoods, you see how the school is, and then you go to other neighborhoods, and it just seems like somebody is kicking out some more money or putting more thought into this process. Ideally, all of these kids deserve access to, the quality and equal education because these are our future doctors, lawyers, teachers. So we all should start at an equal playing field, but we know that's not necessarily the case.
Exactly, and every school building has, kids who are capable of doing every single thing under the sun, every job, every opportunity. They should have that to fully realize their potential. And that potential is not reserved to just wealthier neighborhoods. We know we have kids in lower neighborhoods who are just as brilliant and capable. But unfortunately, we see educational spaces that, like you said, don't maybe match the vision that we see in other places. Brand new buildings, all kinds of resources, all kinds of activities, and those kinds of things. So yeah, we can talk a little bit more about how that happened, because I think, it's complicated how we ended up there. Like, you talked about money getting kicked in.
Yeah.
The way that we fund our schools is pretty complicated. Like, that's something we talked about in the advocacy trainings over and over and over again, and we still could keep doing the same training and still kind of struggle to really understand it. Right?
We are. We're going to attempt to do that over again, right? So I think you answered all the rest of our questions already, so I'm going to throw in another question that has to do with what you just said. So bringing up, where do you think, or do you know, where you live plays a big impact on the experience, the educational experience that your child will have?
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to ask me that question. You can ask any friend or neighbor that question, whether they think that that's true. And I think, and that's because education policy, since my job is to work on the policy side of it, education policy is completely connected to other kinds of policy where disparities happen. So like housing policy is a huge area where the way that people were able to move around communities or not able to leave communities and move into other certain types of communities like the suburbs, that was a whole thing that was driven by the way that laws were, and shaped certain communities to just have higher poverty, much more stress on them, and people who could leave would leave as policy gradually changed over time. So you end up now with communities with just need upon need upon need piled on top of it for many generations. And it's easy to see why the facilities, the assets in those communities are going to look like that. They're going to reflect that stress and that lack of resources and that lack of capacity to be an advocate for yourself.
Right.
Because that's been kind of taken away and chipped away at for so many years that, so, and we have tried, I think we've, there have definitely been attempts to like make that not true anymore. You'll hear a lot of people talk about school choice options, for example, which came into being in like the mid-90s. And so that was meant to say like, okay, we are not going to lock you into a school in your neighborhood that is not what you deserve. We're going to let you look around all the different schools and, take your best shot of getting into a better opportunity. And I know the reason I phrase it that way is that we don't just sort of have unlimited great schools out there for kids to go moving around to.
Right.
And we don't necessarily provide transportation for them to go get into those schools. And that's not an accident.
We don't even have school bus drivers.
And
that's a whole nother line.
It is a whole nother thing, and that comes back to the way that we structure how we pay them and all. It's like it's layered. It's layered mistakes or just inability to do things differently because money isn't endless and all that kind of stuff. So, I think some people have really benefited from things like school choice and being able to not be, stuck with a neighborhood school. But then the thing that keeps me up at night that I would like to change, because I would like to just fix the whole system, is the idea that like, okay, well, some students are able to go get that better opportunity. What about all those kids who didn't get to leave the neighborhood school? And
that's why we do what we do, right?
It is why we do what we do.
But I don't it's like our kids are safe
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of how we think they're safe anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we know the percentage of kids that are getting a good educational experience, and the numbers are very, very low versus the ones that are not.
Right.
So when you are in a position to have that experience, what can you do to make sure others can experience the same?
Well, and it's a great question. I mean, I think, well, it's going to depend on the parent, and if you are watching this, you're probably a parent who's very involved.
And if not, this is your time. You can still get involved. It's never too late.
I'm sure you are. But no, and so you're working really hard to make the best choice for your child. That's fantastic. But then you need to think about how can you give back maybe to the school in your neighborhood or the school down the road that is really struggling. That is a
representation.
Yeah, it's difficult to know how to do it, especially when each of us individually is so busy. And you're going to put all that energy into your own child. So for me, honestly, the thing that I recommend for people is to like be open-minded, especially as like new policy ideas come down about how to fix the whole system. Because I think the most effective way a really good involved parent can help kids that aren't their kid is to, maybe send them to the neighborhood school or something that looks a little more like the neighborhood school and participate in that community.
Right, to help
and make it
revitalize and put something in there.
Yeah, but that's a big ask. I understand that's a big ask. But, go to a school board meeting, participate in some kind of partnership project with, a less well-off school maybe than one your child attends.
Joint pays.
That's right.
Joint pays.
And I'm sure we'll get more into what the opportunities are, but I'm just gonna be honest, I think when you opt out of that high-need school, which I totally understand why people do that, you're losing a big opportunity to participate in the opportunity to make a better space for the kids who need it most.
Yeah, and be ready for that move, transition, because that is
I'm
just being honest, it's a transition, right? Like, going from a Title I school to a magnet school is a transition, all the assistance that people were getting during the pandemic. I'm not getting it.
Well, it's a double-edged sword too, right? When we talk about Black students specifically, but all minoritized students, I think there's struggles of them, when we're in schools where students are essentially segregated.
Right.
But then when you're in a predominantly white and predominantly affluent school environment, there's a whole other set of complications. Do you want to start talking about that? That's a whole other.
This don't have to be a series at this point, right?
So we need policy for that. You need to do both things. You need to try to reduce segregation and make sure students who are in segregated environments get what they need. And we can talk about how exponentially more than in a more balanced environment. And then kids who are in environments that skew the other way need support to like survive in those environments where they are maybe not going to be, they're just not going to see themselves, and they're not going to probably have a lot being done that's responsive to who they are as people.
Right.
And that's a choice that you make as a family, because there's other opportunities, other benefits of being in that environment, but it's a trade-off.
You still have to stay involved. Like you said, there's other things that come into play that you have to keep heed of.
Well, and that I think is such a wise thing that you just said, because I think a lot of parents think, okay, I'm gonna get my kid into this safe school, right? A school where
Just stuff happens everywhere.
See what's going on.
What is it really a safe school?
And I think the biggest mistake that you can make when you have your child in a safe school is to stop paying attention and stop being involved, because you should just always be involved, no matter how good you think the school is.
Right. I didn't know I was gonna have to write an email about scarf being worn during dance class.
What?
Well, it's all about the look.
Okay.
But our look is different sometimes, depending on what you got going on. So,
Yeah.
Clearly.
sometimes.
Clearly. I would love to try. I feel like I had
Gosh, that just really resonated with me. Really, still got stuff to do. I had meetings today, so I had to throw stuff on
Her
there.
hair out like this, she would have to wrap it up and go to dance class.
I should.
When she came out, it would be a whole other situation.
And people understand that.
They don't understand that. So, my job was to make them understand that.
Right. So just think about something like that, right? That they don't understand. Just think about how many other things happen that they are not able to connect with our kids because they just don't understand us.
Yeah.
Not understanding that maybe it's not a malicious intent.
Exactly.
It's just a cultural thing, right? What is normal for us, it just may not be normal for someone else. So
you don't know what you don't know.
And you don't know what you don't know.
And so I don't think it's intentional in many cases. I mean, I think people definitely get weird about being told that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And because you feel, I think the response is like this is where things all fall apart
Yeah,
in these conversations.
those left, yeah.
But it's like, you need to understand that, of course you're not going to understand a cultural experience that you have not participated in. So open your mind and know that, like, a child who's not having that to connect with is going to struggle more, and, and that's needed. And so, but to me, what that says is that I would love to not be having the conversation about how do we make sure we get resources into, like, schools of concentrated poverty, and how do we prevent our students in wealthy or whiter school environments from being bullied. Like, I feel like I would love to see a school system that is just more naturally integrated, and everyone was sort of feeling like they can belong anywhere. Because when you talk about the opportunities of school choice, if you really feel like you don't belong in that school over there because there's like 2 other kids that look like you, is that a choice? Is that really a choice for you?
Right.
And so all these things end up being limitations on our kids being able to, and we as parents being able to navigate the system. And I feel like there's got to be a better way to make this landscape of schools, because we are a society for all kinds of people. It's not just black and white, we've got all kinds of different socioeconomic, this is the term that was used, right? So socioeconomic isn't just about race, it's about, we've got a wide variety within the black community. We're not a monolith, we're diverse in terms of, people come from different, levels of wealth and just different cultures. And, and I think beyond the black community, you see that as well. We have a growing Hispanic community, Asian community, and all of these different students and families should be able to connect to our public schools in a way that I think feels less painful sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
More options that are real options.
We were asked to speak up twice.
Oh, sorry.
So I can speak up just a little bit. So let's get on into quality education.
Okay.
So in your eyes, what do you think a quality educational experience would look like to you?
Oh my gosh. Where did
I know
you
we talk about
begin?
this all the time.
I mean,
how
it's
do you
fundamental.
put into words,
Like,
right?
you guys know Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like, you could probably have Maslow's hierarchy of like what's needed in a school too. Like, so there's some fundamental basic things that need to be there. A child deserves to be in a clean, well-maintained, state-of-the-art, if possible, building. I think that is the least that we can do. It's like, okay, let's be in a nice space. Now, that is not gonna provide an education. That's just,
That's the foundation.
Environment.
It tells you something. Like, yeah, this is a palace of learning. We come here to be safe, and we come here prepared and ready to learn. But it does.
That helps, that makes a difference. It does make a difference.
Yeah.
I can honestly say because I go to different schools now, right? So I'm getting a chance to experience different schools and different environments. So when you walk into a school that has an environment that is clean and welcoming, and this is something like the ambiance of the school, it makes you feel like you can accomplish things today.
And they're being cared for
Today.
I don't know tomorrow. Today, this is what we're going to do.
But from kindergarten to 12th grade, you want that child to walk into a building and feel cared for. And I've definitely experienced that school where it's like, that like that janitorial staff really loves those kids.
Yeah.
They are in there, and it smells nice. Like, who walks into an elementary school and it's like, smells nice in here? That's just like love here. I know that sounds silly, but I think that's like a part of the warmth of
makes
the
a big
school.
difference.
And so like then a student knows that they're safe and that they're cared for, and that's one of those sort of Maslow hierarchy types of things where it's like, if you don't have it, how are you supposed to actually get on with the experience of a quality education, which is the instructional part. And so, obviously, in a quality education, you want to have high quality educators. That's another sort of complicated and controversial thing to get into, because we're not saying anyone is not good necessarily as an educator, but I think that we have schools where you have a lot of inexperienced educators maybe who are not getting the supports that they need and are being overwhelmed with students with needs. And so I think, another thing in a quality educational environment is that you maybe have like a nice mix of different experiences. You've got veteran teachers, you've got new teachers with new ideas, and you've got everybody supporting each other in sort of a community. I hear that a lot when I visit schools.
Community.
Is that people are really looking for a supportive community environment, and I don't know how you can create that if the educators aren't finding that for themselves. So I think that's really important, because then how are they going to do, we're still trying to get to that access to quality education part. How are you going to get there if you have educators who are overwhelmed and not supported and not prepared, or whatever that is? So I think it can get easy for us to beat up on educators sometimes, because that's like where the rubber meets the road, where a child meets, maybe a situation that isn't working for them.
Right.
But I would say that that educator probably is a product of all these other things that are going up around and over their head, in terms of like whether we have created a safe and supportive environment for the educator that's going to create this learning environment for the child. That's my soapbox on supporting educators and being understanding where they're coming from. It's like they can't connect with their child, they are not being given the tools to connect with their child oftentimes. And I think it's possible, or it has to be possible, because when we look at who our teachers are, it does not reflect our student body. So every child is not going to have a teacher in front of the classroom who looks like them now. That's something we are working on. We want to see more people of color come into the classroom and be in front of the classroom so that changes. But children should be exposed to different people anyway, right? And and they need to be given the tools to be understanding, compassionate, loving, instructional leaders to our kids. So I think that's that too. So I think it's being able to be in a safe, clean environment with a caring adult, or maybe preferably multiple adults in front of that classroom to facilitate learning. And then, I think it can look a lot of different ways when you actually get to the instruction, depending on the age of the kids and the content and all this other kind of stuff. But I tend to think about like, what's the context and how do we make a good context, and then let the educators be the experts that they are in educating. I'm definitely a teacher lover. I come from teachers.
Right. So just imagine if, we do have an educator here, so just imagine if we had a student here, and maybe someone from DOE here, this conversation would probably go a little bit different. Because it would be a lot more views, right?
Sure.
So maybe we understand each other a little more. I think what happens is we only have one perspective of what is supposed to go on in the classroom.
Yeah.
You only have your child's perspective if you are a parent, and you only had your personal experiences when you were in school, unless you are an educator or administrator to be, and even an administrator is going to have a different perspective than the actual.
Everybody's perspective is going to be different.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be different. So.
Well, that's what makes schooling so hard, and that's what makes me love it so much, honestly, because it's like all the different, everybody's there, you know, everyone with their different personalities and different needs and different wants, all trying to make it work under one roof. And that's like a reflection of what society is or is supposed to be. And like, that is hard work for everyone involved. It's not supposed to necessarily be easy kumbaya all the time. I definitely, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people really, we think about education for our own child. We want them to be in a safe environment. We want them to get a good education. What does that mean to us? Probably it means like, well, I want them to be able to go as far with their education as they can, into college if they want to, or into a good job. I want them, you know, to be able to like make a living. But I think also, and it depends on the person that you're talking to, whether or not they're thinking about this, but like public schools were definitely created to like help make our society better, bring us into the same spaces together and learn how to live with one another and understand one another. I really do believe that. It's like an engine of democracy.
Right. We just need to realize our society has changed.
It has.
Dramatically.
Right.
And it changed with it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's constant, that was what our Toastmasters meeting topic was about today.
Wait, tell me.
So, you know, for those of you who don't know, I am an active member of Toastmasters, and Toastmasters is a organization that helps you with public speaking. So we do something called table topics, where people will pick a number and just ask off the cuff questions.
Yeah.
But our theme of today was about change, because like the only thing constant is changing. You know, in the corporate space, everything is changing. You know, every time you get an email, it's like it's a new program or it's a new system. Like things are constantly and rapidly changing. And we've talked a lot this evening about a lot of the disparities and a lot of the opportunities, but what are some of the solutions? Like, we got people watching the live. Some people may have kids, some people may not. Everybody's at different stages of the game, but we all recognize that there's a need. So if I'm that person watching the live, what is like some of the most basic things that I can do to get involved? Like, how can I support my teachers? How can we support the staff? How can we support the students? How can we support our community, right? Understanding that you've got a job, I've got a job too, right? We talked about busy schedules. I hosted other meetings before I came here today. Like, we know people are booked and busy. We know things are expensive. Everybody's working and trying to survive, but we still know that we have a responsibility to do something for our children, especially as it pertains to education, because, one day it's going to be our doctor. This might be our lawyer, right? If I go to the old folks home, this might be the person taking care of me. So what can we do in order to help?
Yeah, and likewise, not to be cynical on it, but like, I love that you're focusing on the positive there. Like, these are our future, this is the person who's like, make your cancer. But like, by the same token, like, because I remember having another parent say to me, well, those kids at that school, and I'm not going to name any names, those kids are just screwed. It's like, well, guess what? If they're screwed, we're all screwed, because that screwed kid is going to have an impact on the world that you live in.
Yeah.
So you can't afford to ignore them.
We just want to
know how to get to that point, or even know that they want to do that type of thing.
Yeah.
And not in the environments to like,
Exactly.
people aren't around them that are showing them, people that are wealthy or whatever the case is, they're not around them people, so they won't.
Yeah. And vice versa.
Right,
Because like, we all need to know that people have different experiences in the world and how to work with that and change the world for the better. But, I think everybody's got a different skill set. So that's right. Think about what your skill set is and like, what's something small. Like, don't overwhelm yourself. Like, I'm going to go to every school board meeting. Like, because you're not going to go to every school board meeting.
You may not even go to one.
No. But I will say,
go to one then.
I will say it's a lot easier now than it was in our day.
They have virtual
Because
meetings.
you can go on
Virtually, right. You don't have to physically be there.
So you can go and you will learn a lot in one of those meetings.
Yeah.
If you're in a big school district and you think maybe your school doesn't have the resources that you wanted to have, you watch that meeting and you'll hear little, positive things coming from other schools and, brags about things that are going on in positive ways. We should be shining a light on positive things that happen. You'll be like, oh, we should be doing that much.
You should be doing that too.
So just be paying attention. So if you're someone who doesn't mind hopping on a Zoom and watching a school board meeting, you should absolutely do it. You will understand so much more about how your school operates, and the people who are making big decisions.
It'll
Like
make
the
you
school
want
board
to
members,
vote.
maybe make you want to
Junior,
run.
junior school board,
Run
get
the
involved,
school board.
know who's on the board making the decisions in your community. We cannot stress that enough.
Get to know who they are.
Get to know who they are.
Just at least, like, that's the least you could do, is like, go to the webpage of your school and find out who's on the board, okay? And then like, if maybe you want to email one of them with a question or something, but just know who they are and have that maybe in your back pocket. But I think the easiest thing is like, develop a relationship with your child's educator and make sure that they know they can ask you for help maybe, and maybe sometimes you can help and maybe sometimes you can't. And just think about little things you can do. Can you be the parent who's fast enough to sign up for napkins, which is the best thing to bring to those potty parties?
That's right.
You
That's
don't have
right.
to go to buy whatever. Be the napkin mom.
Actually, be pleased.
All that's available at the dollar store, so.
Or the napkin dad. I don't want to discriminate. Dads are awesome too. But and then you might find that it's not as hard as it feels like.
Yeah.
And then you get to know, I think sometimes it can be hard to break down that tendency to have an adversarial relationship, maybe with the educators or the school leaders. I think we really have it ground into us for good reason that these people are not our allies.
Right.
And that works against us, I think. I'm not saying, don't question them or, believe that they're the best people ever in every single way. Nobody is. But just develop a relationship. Relationships are imperfect. But if you just have a very closed door policy, that will change your experience of your child's education, and it will change your child's education. So it's really important to try to figure out how to build that trust, and so then you can start to be an advocate for them, and they know that you are on their side, and you want to make their job easier, so that they can be a better teacher to your child. I think that's just where the magic starts to happen.
I think you pretty much answered the other questions we had in there, so I would, it's only because we have done something on history, so I will.
Oh, we didn't talk about history.
We did. And I know you're gonna lengthy, so I'm gonna ask you now. So, what do you think is, not what you think, what do you know is unique about the city of Wilmington that relates to this topic?
Oh my.
What is unique? Because we know that,
Yeah.
well, some people might not know that our city has a unique history with education.
It is very, I printed out all the big articles. I won't read them.
No, don't read it. Sum it up for us. Give us the elevator speech version of.
I would just say Wilmington is very fractured when it comes to how our schools are run. And basically, the capsule version of that is that we have a lot of different school districts that come into, they just sort of split the city up like a pie. And, it kind of sounds like whatever. But what that means is that you have very inconsistent
Everybody not getting an equal slice.
curriculum, just different things. Like you cross the street and all of a sudden you might be going to a new school in a new school district that does things completely differently. And maybe your kid was hanging on by a thread already, and then they just fall right off that cliff. I've known that has happened to kids who've gone from one school district to another, and just you had to start all over again. So it just creates a lot of inconsistency. And we have, in the last 25 years, we also have charter schools, which are each function like an individual school district. And so there's pros and cons to all of them. And so what that means is that it's very fractured. Everybody's doing things.
Everybody's doing their own thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that makes it really hard for kids and parents. Even just think about as a parent, just trying to manage your calendar if you have more than one child.
Right.
And probably that more than one child, I don't even need to be saying this. I'm sure people are listening who have had this experience. Your kid is in this district, this charter, another district, because you're trying to make sure your kids are getting what they need. And they're all on a different calendar, let alone everything else. So it's just, we're very all over the place, which makes it that much harder to fix problems. If we're trying to just solve fundamental civil rights problems for our kids that have not been resolved yet, how are you going to do that when you have to go to 20 different governing entities to advocate, as opposed to like 3 different ones to get the policies right. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, we're very fractured. That happened because there was an effort to socioeconomically integrate our schools, and that was done first by creating a Newcastle County school district, and then people were weird about how finances were going to work, so they split it up, and Wilmington got split into a pie and sent in 4 different directions. And then we kind of doubled down on it with choice and charter law. And there's just a lot of reports that came out over the years about how this was going to make the disparities worse. And in fact, Ms. Ray Jones Avery, who I wish was here with us, she is the queen of all of this stuff. And she chaired a committee in like the year 2000, which is called the Neighborhood Schools Act Committee. And it was all related to how students are being assigned to schools and a lot of big change that was happening at that time. And that report projected about how the changes that were happening in policy at the time were going to lead to concentrated poverty and poor resources for kids. And what they projected didn't even go as far as bad as it has now gotten.
Right.
And so it's like we have this combination of things that have happened with the way the law has changed that have just led to a lot of really neglected school environments. That people are running from and into new environments that may or may not be quality school environments. It's really hard to keep up.
Nobody wants to deal with it.
So the system is, I hate to be like a system is broken person, because I'm not necessarily that person, but.
I mean, let's be real. How can we fix it if we can't acknowledge what's really going on?
Yeah.
I mean, from what you're saying, it seems pretty broken to me.
Well, because there's a lot of people in it who are.
Yeah, it's working, but it's broken. I mean, have you ever had an item that's broke, but it still works? Like, we all can relate to that. You're like, let me just put some tape on it or some glue, because I still can get use out of it. It's broke, and we know it's broke. But I'm gonna keep getting as many uses out of it as I can, and I'm like, that's what they're doing with our kids.
Right, the faucet works if you like turn the handle all the way to the left and wiggle it like this.
Right.
And then like go like that, and it's working, but like you're doing all this.
Yeah,
you should not be doing.
it's like, yeah.
And as much as we don't want to admit,
Yeah,
it's politics.
yeah.
As much as we don't want to admit, because it shouldn't be mixed up.
But it is. It is.
Well, it's politics, and I think unfortunately, like having everyone kind of be on their own to find a good education instead of put our energy into building a strong, like strengthening our local schools and being in on it together to build a stronger system where we don't all have to fight each other and scramble to the wind to find a good school.
Or
Like
scramble
that-
for money.
That would have been a better thing to do, you know? Like come together instead of split apart. And so I think we need to figure out how can we start to pull ourselves back together to build a stronger system, because that fracture is not serving us. I think it's serving people.
It serves who it serves.
Yeah.
And then for who it doesn't.
I think it serves,
Yeah.
and I'm being honest.
Yes.
I think it serves the people who learn how to navigate it. Right. I think you talked about it.
Yes, I did.
Well, what you said, it was good. And I try to get people in, but I don't think you realize it until you need to realize it, which is too late, right?
But there isn't even enough space for everyone to learn how to navigate the system. That's the problem. It's like, yes, I taught that because I was like, this is a really complicated, difficult, infuriating system. Learn how to navigate it the best you can. It's like climbing a hill that's this steep. And so we need to get more people who can climb that steep hill. But the goal always was and is to teach the advocates who are navigating the system to become, activists who make the steep climb less steep, so like more people can navigate it. But that involves sacrifice on all of our parts to become more unified as a community. And reclaim our schools and be like, you know what, we're gonna make this local school that for the last 10, 20 years has been a place that we avoided.
Right.
We are gonna find a way to rally around it and make it a strong place. I think the goal should be like, your neighborhood school should be a place that you would happily send your child.
You should do.
So what is it gonna take? What can you do to make that true? Maybe not today, maybe not for your child, but 5, 10, 20 years from now. Can you just like send a donation, join their PTA if they have one? They probably don't.
Maybe that might be an opportunity for you to create one.
There you go.
A parent support, listen, parent support group.
Yeah.
Listen, we created Pay It Forward Networking Group is a support group. I don't say support, we're a networking group for minority women. It doesn't mean that other people can't join. It doesn't mean other people can't find value in what we provide. But if there is not a space created for you, create one.
That's right.
You know, as the parents coming together with your own parent organization, not to say that the PTA or school where people are not active, but just think about how you can be, how impactful you could be if all of the kids' parents in the classroom came together to make sure that this class and school holistically had what it needed.
Yes. And we work with those parents in that building to do that. That's another really big one, I think, is like, how can you empower the parents in that building? Because oftentimes a school that is really struggling, a school that's full of Black and brown, low-income kids, those parents have had terrible school experiences, traumatizing school experiences. They don't know what their rights and responsibilities are in that school building. They need help and support becoming more empowered in that environment. And I really believe, and that's why PACE was so important to me, that ultimately will make the difference. It's organizing, it's basic organizing. If you give people the tools and the belief to make what they have, what they need, they will find a way, you know, and then you just have to make sure that they're connected to policymakers, you know, doers and activists to pull all these together.
One of my questions and one of the
I said she's taking us right into our
Right.
next question.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
That was one of my questions for the women. Well, I asked the governor that question.
Oh, good.
Like, what can we do for a generation that has children that you failed? I mean, not you in particular.
Not you.
Take that back. Not you personally, but us as a community and as a generation, we failed each other in the sense of education. So what are we going to do to not only get these kids where they are, but reassure the parents that their kids are going to be okay, even though you weren't okay.
Yeah.
Your kids are going to be okay. Like, how do we reassure them? Because we don't feel reassured.
Well, I think we have to find our way to what is going to reassure us that that's going to happen. And it's not, no one else is going to do this for us. We have to do this ourselves. We have to define the terms of what is the vision? Like, what do we want these schools to look like? How do we want to participate in that? You know, maybe at that point, then we will feel reassured. And I hope that the Wilmington Learning Collaborative, the Reading Consortium that I co-chair, these are supposed to be entities that help figure out what that's going to be, and plug into the communities, and then plug into the different, you know, relevant like government entities to help make the change to enable that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think we need to define what the vision is that makes us feel reassured and hopeful, and then we have to show up for that.
Right. But I think you did a good job defining it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Reading?
Oh, sure. Yes. So Reading Consortium for Educational Equity. It is a legislative body that I formed with Representative Nambi Chikocha. We both got elected. We both were like, what do we want to do? And we were like, our big dream is to figure out how to reverse all the damage that we felt that was done by the Neighborhood Schools Act in 2000. We can have a whole other episode about that. Basically, look at the damage of the Wilmington landscape. How can we come up with a body that does the work of reversing that damage? It's been 5 years, we're still working on it. But so basically that's what this entity does. I'm the co-chair, and we look at we're trying to look at both things we can do in the short term to make things better. So like add more pre-K seats in Wilmington, so more kids can start off with a good quality early education.
What do you mean when you say add more pre-K seats?
So basically we look at like ECAP seats, like I don't know if
Because
you're
some
familiar
people
with
don't know
ECAP.
what ECAP means.
Yeah, break it down for me.
Yeah,
I don't have kids.
I think
Talk to me. Talk to me.
This is the perfect person to,
You know, I have children.
need to find that acronym.
Yeah.
So ECAP is like early childhood something program, the assistance program, anyway, it's a state-funded like model, it's kind of similar to like a Head Start kind of model. So it's like, this is what a high-quality preschool education looks like. And so like Christina Cultural Arts Center, those are ECAP, that's an ECAP.
They have openings.
Programs. Oh, they do?
Service centers, 705 North Market Street, yes, they do.
That is a huge opportunity. So, you know, so it's high quality, like, okay. we were looking at some of the different things that our preschool environments in the city were struggling with, and it was like people who work in preschool environments and don't get paid what they deserve. So we were like, how can we make the model
They just don't get paid.
incentivize that? I know. These are all different parts of the same problem. Anyway, so we look at that. We talk about how to make sure we have high quality pre-K where the workforce is also able to, live a nice life, like the whole picture. We looked at wraparound services, so making sure that like our local schools getting what they need to make sure they have things like wellness centers and after school programs and summer programs and all these kinds of things. So we got state money that we can we're trying to get into more of those schools that way. That's some of the stuff that we do as short-term solutions. And then like the big stuff is the really deep, hard political work, which is like fixing how we fund our schools so that we fund our schools in a way that's more fair, fixing the government structure of the schools, so things like all that fracture that we talked about, we can start to like smooth that out and make it less complicated, maybe. Right. That's a really hard conversation, because if you're talking about changing around like district lines and things, people do not want to hear it, but we're trying to just let's have that conversation.
Only way to get comfortable is to get uncomfortable. I'm a little bit radical too, which was also our Toastmasters word today. That was our Toastmasters word of the day. If you're a Toastmaster, you gotta do your fingers.
Education is a great space to be radical.
That's right. May not be light, but
it's never like, hey. There's never an end to the things that you can have tough conversations about when it comes to education. I love that.
So I wasn't a tough conversation person, but I had no other choice.
You had no choice.
It was like,
let's talk about it.
You gotta talk about it. It was to the point where, okay, I don't want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it, right? Because if I don't talk about it with you, I gotta go talk about it with these other people, and I would rather.
If someone's not yelling or crying, we're not really having a conversation. Which, sorry, I guess we're not getting there tonight, but it's we're not done. We got 10 minutes. But we can cry next time. But yeah, and so we want to do the big stuff, we want to do the short-term stuff, and something I'm really excited about the Learning Collaborative is that they are really trying to step in. I think they are going to step in, on the local piece, which is getting the districts to actually collaborate and work together and reduce some of that, how things are divided and kids are getting served in a really inconsistent way and make it more consistent. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think they did a really great job of making sure that communities and educators were engaged in sort of defining the vision.
Yes.
So I think it's going to still take some time, because when you do something democratically and with engaged communities, it's going to take time.
Right.
And that can be really frustrating. I think that is one of the things that I've been the most frustrated about doing politics, is that like the really hard stuff is not like flipping a switch, because we're questioning and challenging people on things that have been a certain way for a long time.
And it's been working for them.
And it's been working for enough people with power that changing it doesn't feel great, and figuring out if we're going to go in a new direction instead of where we are, how do we even know which one is the right direction? And that's hard. Those are hard conversations to have.
Okay.
So I have a question. I don't know if you can answer this, but so like, how is there like a regeneration of the funding that is given to schools? Like,
Where does it come from?
Yeah, like.
You are actually reallocate the funds.
It's funny that she asked, and I was like, I was like,
This is another.
I need a chart. Give us the elevators math version.
No, it comes from a lot of different sources. So like, there's a little bit of federal funding, but a lot of state funding, and then there's local funding. And that's where you hear a lot of people start arguing about where the unfairness comes in, because all the districts get the same amount of money essentially, in theory, from the state. It's determined by how many students you have, like what degrees the teachers have. There's like whole salaries, blah, 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 blah. The money flows in to pay for the teachers and some other types of things. And then the local funds is what comes from like the local taxes that the county charges you on your house, or baked into your rent or whatever. And so that's going to be really inconsistent from school district to school district, because some school districts are wealthy and some school districts are very poor, so they can raise different amounts of money from their local communities. Now, we do have things that we do in policy that are meant to like collect the money and spread it out in a fair way again, but they are very broken because we didn't reassess properties for a very long time, like 40, 50 years. So there was a lawsuit which the courts ordered that they do property reassessment again, so you may be experiencing that now, so that we will be able to revisit how we compare local funds and spread them back out equally again.
Shout out to Mr. J Street.
Yeah, absolutely. Always shout out to J Street, Councilman. What would we do without you?
J Street, if you hear that, we need you on the line. We need you on the line.
Oh, okay. You want to hear a story?
We need you on the line.
Are you ready? That's the question. Are we ready for him? Yeah, we're ready, Mr. Street, we're ready.
We ready. Remember, we're not in politics, so say what you say. You know, okay?
No, he is
This
beautiful.
made me think of something.
What?
I went home and the brain on the same
Yeah.
side.
Oh,
And I said it, y'all.
that needs to be 3 hours long and a big buzzer with time limit. Love you both.
And we want these things, because we know they want that.
We're gonna get everything we need. Everything we need. Everything.
I mean, you should charge people to watch that one.
Listen.
No donation is too big or too small. You can make one right now at www.pifngroup.com.
Oh my gosh.
Plugger.
Right. So, because you're so great, you just answer our questions before we end.
You definitely did. You definitely did.
So, good timing. So, we're gonna go into our last segment, which is talking about community partners
Yeah.
and how they affect our education
Yeah.
system. So, our first question is, can you discuss how community partners help strengthen our education system?
Yeah, I think it goes back almost to some of the first things that we talked about. Like, I think a school that is welcoming of community-based partnerships is really opening itself up to support and connecting with that community.
Right.
So like, if you have an educator staff that maybe doesn't look culturally like the students, you better be opening those doors to community groups that really know that community, who can help you communicate with parents, can help you create events and activities that are exciting for families and make them want to be in your school building, which you really want them to want to be in your school building.
Right.
And, you know, and really help engage students. And I think, so to me, I think that's a huge role that is often overlooked where community partners can, I think sometimes you'll see community partners come in and offer almost like instructional supplements and things, which is great.
But it's not all we did.
It would.
Certainly not all we did.
Yeah.
I don't give myself kudos. No.
Well, do it, give yourself a
About,
Cause give yourself your flowers.
Mhm.
Right now, let's go.
I am, because I was in the hospital when it happened. Something to give myself my flowers. When the Wilmington Area Collaborative, I also worked with Safe Schools.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to work with John at the mayor's office to do an event for the Wilmington Area Collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
So the event that they held at Stubbs.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited to have that meeting, and I had it right in the classroom, right after aftercare. It was so funny. They were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I just got us an event." So, but I worked myself so hard.
Good.
I was in the hospital
Oh.
for the event.
Okay.
Right.
We don't want to do
We
that.
don't wanna do that.
We don't want to
Take
do
it
that.
from me. This work is not.
But I think that's what it is. It's like, use the assets in the community to strengthen the school. Like, I think educators are the instructional experts, and sometimes we ask our educators to be like all of these other things that maybe they didn't train for. So it's like, I think community partners are there to be experts in the other things that our educators can't and probably shouldn't be experts for. So I think,
you should.
yeah, bring them in, you know, hopefully we'll do a better job of making sure there's funding to make those partnerships happen, and which is always a big missing piece. But I think when I see a school where it feels really successful, so they really are taking advantage and saying yes to all these partnership opportunities and really being connected in like a two-way street kind of a way with their community. And the ones where there's a lot more stress in the building seems like when they're really asking the educators to be the cultural experts, the psychologists, the, you know, all the things.
All these things that they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are those are really great. I mean, there's amazing organizations, sometimes really local, culturally focused organizations, sometimes other types of expertise, like I think about like Reading Assist, which is an amazing reading specialist organization that sends people out to work with kids who really need assistance getting up to speed with their reading, which is everything. Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And even when we think about community partners, can we consider like community centers or community partner, right? Because I believe that everybody has a community center on whatever side of town you live on. Whether it's West Side, you have William Hicks.
Yeah.
Over the North Side area, you have Teen Warehouse, you have Kingswood, you have West End, you have Christina, you have the Police Athletic League. It's so many different, the Salvation Army, like, it's just so many different
There should be extensions of that
facilities.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing is parents find out what's going on at those community centers, because a lot of times they offer cohort programs, they offer a lot of different programming that's specific to your child, and it's free. You know, majority of it is free.
Yeah.
Even
We have a community, an education community building.
Yes.
yes,
we do.
yes.
So most of the programming is free.
It's free. And then even for some program that may come with the fee, there's so many different grants and sponsorships, and, you know, even for organizations like ours, you know, you go reach out to different organizations, see who can, you know, I want to get my kid involved. We don't have the money, you know, how can you support me? A lot of times people just don't know. If you just ask those probing questions, just ask those little extra things. And let's be honest, everybody is on the internet, everybody is on technology. So the same energy it takes to scroll through Facebook, I scroll. Same energy it takes to scroll through Instagram, I scroll, right? Because I'm calling y'all out, but I'm calling, you know, we all do the same things. But if you can scroll, you can Google activities, local activities my child can participate in. Community center near me. How can I get more involved? Even if you can't come up with the answer, ask Google. Because Google will tell you. Because you are not the first person who thought, I see that there's a need, I want to get him more involved, I know my child is struggling, or I know other kids are struggling. Like, somebody else has asked this question before. So no need to reinvent the wheel. YouTube University is your friend. There's just so many different ways to access information. It's not like old school. Remember we had the what is it, encyclopedias?
Yes. Oh, I love
People remember, like, literally encyclopedias. Like, we're so past
like
that
information
now.
on a page.
Like, information is on a page. We understand that there's still going to be things that you just don't know. Those word of mouth things, those opportunities that you just don't hear about. But nonetheless, I would say the takeaway is we recognize that there's a major issue, but we also recognize there's a lot of opportunity for people to do things and things that they can incorporate in their day-to-day that doesn't really go off of what they're like. You're not going out of your way to do anything.
And not that you're a board member on a major community center or anything, but maybe that's right. But I think there's a huge opportunity at our centers, big and small, but particularly our big ones, to be a great space to help parents do this navigation work. I mean, obviously we did that at Christina. It was a big goal for us. It was like, we're going to gather people in a place where they feel comfortable, safe, they come here to get enriched. And we're going to talk about hard things. We're going to talk about how we're going to fix those hard things. So I think there's a huge opportunity in our community, external to schools, but our community spaces, to offer those opportunities to have those conversations and to work to solve some of these problems. I had a director of one of the big centers talk to me about how frustrated they are, and I'm like, how is this still a problem? Just to like coordinate transportation with schools when they are seeing these kids before and after school. Why should it be difficult for them to collaborate with the district? So I think there's a lot of power in those community spaces to talk about these frustrations we're all sharing.
That's right, because that's where the kids go. They go to play. They go in and hang out. They're going there. So
compare notes, and we can then say, oh, that's a thing we can fix. We can figure out a way to talk about transportation, are we adequately supplying transportation between these spaces and those spaces and making it easier for families. I think it's a great opportunity that I hope that we don't miss to like interface with the problems that we're talking about tonight, the disparities, and be the vector for solving them.
Hubs.
Yeah.
the hubs.
The hubs.
Be that central hub.
Great place to be. When you get tired of scrolling and you want to be with people and look them in the eye, go to your community center.
Your community center has Facebook.
We're people. We're people to talk to.
It's like powerful.
No, maybe on my phone, but thank you.
If you want to scroll, you can scroll it, but you scroll different things.
Right, ladies, we're at 8:00.
We
Is there
are.
any final questions? Any final questions for our lovely senator? I know she likes to call it Tizzy, but we just gotta let y'all know, we got the senator on here tonight. She has blessed us with a wonderful, wonderful conversation about socioeconomic status and access to quality education. I hope you took something tonight. I took some gems tonight. I took a lot of gems. And it even for as involved as I am, it still made me think about what else can I do. So I feel like I hope everyone is asking, what else can I do?
Yeah.
Little things go a very, very, very
And
long way.
sometimes it's a little thing.
You read it to kids, like you can read to literally, you can go and read to kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the most extravagant thing that you can think of, although we like extravagant. But kids appreciate presence.
Yeah.
And presence meaning your physical presence. I know gifts.
Right.
Even though they do appreciate those presents too, but just being there really goes a long way. Having someone, even for me being a young board member, it's important because people need to see. They need to see this. They need to see someone young that sits on a board that has the skills and the capability to represent them and speak to them, because I'm an 80s baby. I'm in both realms. I understand both sides, right? I know how to be professional and maintain my job, but then I also understand the other side of things. I understand I still live in Wilmington, right? I am in the heart of the city. There are still a lot of things that go on around me. So although I may be in one world with my job, my other world looks a little differently. So I get it, and I resonate. So get involved, find out who was on your kid's school board, who was in a community center, even if it's not a fit for you, because leadership is not a fit for everyone, but still build those relationships, build those connections with those key people so that they know who you are. And when something is going on with your child, they'll be more inclined to reach out to you, and they'll also act probably a little differently knowing that I had that, oh wait, that's Miss So-and-so's child. Hold on.
Hold on. That's what's going to happen.
Be involved, and, let us know. I'd love to get feedback. If everyone wants to challenge any of our gems, I'd always love to hear it, and, let us know if you're struggling with anything so we can.
Yes, we're gonna provide all this information, so if you don't mind, I know you had some other resources you wanted to share. We'll go ahead and make that available on our website so that viewers can actually go in, read through some of the history. Maybe if you have some organizations that you want to recommend, or just any of the things that we may not have been able to cover tonight that will still help people navigate, through this education space. We're gonna make sure all of that is available on our website, www.pifngroup.com. So therefore, people can access the information, really go back, dig through it. Our contact information is in there. So if you have questions, you can reach out to us and we can source the information back to the appropriate parties. This is part one.
Oh, I can't wait to
We're
read
doing
on
part,
that.
I don't know, this might need to be a series. This may need to be a series.
We just made it a series.
Just made it a series.
Stay tuned. If you just want to know my thoughts, school to prison pipeline.
Oh, definitely.
School funding, our results are coming back, our reports are coming back out in January. Let's stay tuned, let's stay involved, and let them know that we're here and we are making decisions for our children as well.
So we're gonna pay it forward.
We are paying it forward. Thank you, everyone. Please continue to support us, love on us. We're just getting started. Thank you for being patient with us as we grow through technology issues and just making sure we present this in a professional way so that you understand our intentions are pure, they're very good. But we're still growing, right? There is listen, if you have ever served in a nonprofit space, it is very, very rewarding and challenging at the same time, right? So there's a lot of things that go along. You guys wouldn't have no idea about the amount of emails and conversations and we've killed each other a few times.
It's okay.
But it's okay. We are here, right? It really, really we really put our heart and soul into this grow. So just thank you.
you. Keep it
And this is just the beginning, so y'all don't get used to us because
Great job, guys. Bye, ladies.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Oh my goodness, do not lose.
Somebody said, hey, guys.
Oh, send me any,
choice info and closing date, so
oh.
we got you, Miss Queen, we got you.
You know,
Now is the
that is
perfect moment to
something-
get started talking about your life.
And that is something.
People still don't know. I know they don't know. But you know what? Someone, Miss Cookie, I think said something to me, which is ever.
You like talking with.
Did you?
My mom works for them.
No, it was a tough experience.
You know how I am.
But it's a good
Don't sit
experience.
down, I'm gonna share.
But what she said to me when she
It's
was, why
just
did you
like, I. And it's something a little more. Not even money wise.
just call her?
No.